Welcome back to KION News First at 10. Time now for a full of that Weather Authority forecast. I mentioned it earlier, but a gorgeous day to be out at Monterey Bay FC today, but obviously a lot to keep an eye on with those warmer temperatures, Dan.
Well, yeah, I mean, temperatures so far not going to be the big issue for us, but it is going to be the wind. We saw it pick up today. It got pretty gusty today, but today we had the wind off the water, so it was moist, and it's still moist to some extent tonight. But the drier air mass is going to start to work its way in tonight as we take a live look from Domenico's on the Wharf. Not everywhere is going to be windy tonight. If you live up in the hills, especially on the ridge tops, that's where we're going to find the wind. And occasionally that wind will mix down into the valleys during the overnight hours, but not everyone's going to have wind tonight. In fact, much of the day tomorrow, you might not have a lot of wind in some sheltered areas as well. But if you live in exposed areas up on the ridge tops, etc., in the hills, it's going to be quite blustery, and it's going to be a dry wind coming in from the northeast. Out there tonight, temperatures dropping, getting chilly out there as there's not much moisture left in the atmosphere to hold on to the heat of the day. Now, we still have some, but it's quickly drying out. So right now we're 53 in Watsonville, 58 in Salinas, and seeing some 40s up there and even in the higher elevations. And those temps will drop. Most of us are going to drop down into the 40s overnight for our lows tomorrow morning as this drier air moves in. But as I mentioned, there'll be occasionally gusty in most locations around the bay, but you'll have some lulls in that as well. Let's take a look at the overall setup. And as we zoom out here a little bit, we'll see an area of low pressure sitting basically over the Snake River country in eastern Oregon and western Idaho, and then a strong ridge of high pressure out over the Pacific. And you know, the atmosphere is always trying to balance itself out between these high and low pressure systems, and that's where we get our winds from. And since these are both pretty strong features, us being in between them, we're really kind of stuck in that gradient of wind, and that's why we're going to see some of the stronger winds. Now, we're not talking extreme winds. It's not like we're expecting wind damage. It's really not the expectation outside of maybe a small tree branch or here down. But it's just the wind in combination with the dry air that's going to come out of the system. And I know we see rain. I mean, you're thinking, okay, well, where's this dry air coming from if it's raining across Nevada and Utah? You can see it on your map here, Dan. Well, we're on the backside of it. So this air mass, which is cold as it stands, and cold air mass can't hold as much moisture as a warm air mass can. As that air mass starts to move south and it goes over mountain ranges and warms up as it compresses down the mountain ranges, it loses what little moisture it has. So by the time it gets to us, it warms up, but also dries out significantly. So that is the issue. So we're going to have some wind, and on top of that, drier air as we head through the overnight and throughout the day tomorrow. So here's our future track winds, and this is at 6 a.m. tomorrow morning. Notice we're seeing low numbers in places like Salinas and Hollister and Monterey, barely breezy. But Santa Cruz, for example, the wind's downsloping off of the Santa Cruz Mountains. It'll be warm, it'll be dry in these locations as the wind kicks up. So the wind will continue in the mountains overnight, and in some cases it does make it to the valley floors or in the lees of the mountains, so the downward side of the valley. So that includes, you know, Big Sur, Santa Cruz, even the Santa Clara Valley showing some of that downsloping action through the overnight. During the day tomorrow, we'll see the wind in the hills, and then it'll start to mix down into the lower elevations. So places like Salinas and Watsonville and Hollister will have some stronger winds. They're not going to be extreme tomorrow, though. It's just going to be kind of windy. That's really the thing. It's not that it's extreme wind, it's just that it's going to be kind of windy, but also bone dry as that air continues to dry throughout the day tomorrow. Winds will die down for most locations tomorrow evening. We'll probably continue in the hills tomorrow night into Saturday morning before all areas see a reduction in those winds. And again, the red flag warning does go until Saturday afternoon, but I think for the most part, the winds will be dying down by Saturday morning for most locations. So we look at our forecast temps. We're still going to be warm tomorrow. Santa Cruz almost 80 degrees. Capitola in the 70s, up in the mountains, still some 70s out there. So again, this air mass is warming up as it gets towards. Today was kind of chilly. We were in the 60s for most locations. Salinas, for example, only were in the upper 60s today. So tomorrow we're back into the 70s, Watsonville 70s, Marina in the 70s, mid 70s in Gilroy and Hollister tomorrow. Monterey Peninsula, still somewhat cool, even with a northeasterly wind. We're going to get into the upper 60s in some cases and maybe even to the low 70s, but probably won't make the 70s in PG. Down south, mostly 70s. So not extreme temperatures by any means, but again, during the course of the day tomorrow, along with those on and off winds, we're going to see a drying action, and that's why the fire danger is going to be high. So for the 7-day forecast for coastal sites, you can see temperatures bump up on Saturday and kind of hold above normal really through the weekend into early next week. So it looks like a nice weekend after the wind dies down. Should be warm days and cool nights, kind of what you'd expect on a fall day that you're, going to get some apple cider and go to the pumpkin patch, that kind of stuff. Looks like good weather for that. I am watching next Thursday into Friday, a couple models are showing a weather system clipping us and bringing some light precip, so we'll keep an eye on that for you. Inland areas also seeing some warmer temperatures over the course of the next week, although that is during the days. The nights, not so much.